The night sky screams with fire, and I take you into a city under relentless attack. This is forgotten history tales, where survival itself became defiance. Step with me into the shadows of London as the Blitz begins. The first sound I remember is not the siren. It is the silence before it. A stillness heavy enough to feel like the city itself is holding its breath. Then the wail begins, rising and falling, metallic and hollow, echoing off the stone and brick of London's streets. I feel the sound climb through my chest, as though it has pierced the very marrow of my bones. The air shifts, people stiffen, curtains twitch, dogs howl. Somewhere a child begins to cry, and then the night changes. The London Blitz has arrived again. I take you into that darkness, September 7th, 1940. The first of what would be 57 consecutive nights of bombardment. The city that once never slept now dreads the fall of dusk. From the Thames to the rooftops of Stepney, from Westminster's shadow to the East End docks, the hum of approaching engines is the true signal. The Luftwaffe is coming. I can hear them long before I can see them. A low, rolling growl, like thunder stretched into eternity. The streets below are not empty. They can never be fully empty. Families rush toward shelters, carrying what little they can hold in a single bag. A blanket, a loaf of bread, perhaps a cherished photograph. The ground is slick from recent rain, the smell of damp stone mixing with the acrid smoke of factory chimneys. Gas lamps are darkened, shops shuttered, every window blacked out with tape or paint. London is cloaked not in sleep but in enforced shadow, yet the city still breathes, restless, fearful, alive. I feel myself walking among them, mothers clutching children with white knuckles, old men hobbling toward underground stations with the stubborn dignity of those who refuse to show fear. Young couples trying to smile for each other, pretending this is only another night. They descend into the belly of the earth, into the tube stations that have become the city's arteries of survival. Marble Arch, Bethnal Green, Aldwych, once proud gateways of movement, now transformed into cavernous dormitories. The air underground is thick with the scent of sweat, coal dust, and damp wool. People lie shoulder to shoulder, hundreds packed on platforms, their bodies pressed into the tiled walls as if the earth itself might shield them. And above, the first bombs fall. I hear it, like a ripping of the sky itself, followed by a concussive roar that shakes glass from its frames and sends tiles raining from rooftops. Explosions ripple through the East End. Flames leap upward where warehouses once stood, painting the black sky with a lurid orange glow. The docks, London's lifeline, are the prime target. Timber, sugar, tea, rubber, oil, all ignited in a single infernal sweep. The smell of burning sugar clings to the air, strangely sweet, a sickly perfume laced with ash and grief. I move through streets where rubble crunches beneath my feet, where firemen drag hoses that writhe like serpents, their nozzles spitting defiance at an enemy they cannot see. I see wardens with tin helmets shouting orders, their torches slicing through smoke to guide survivors to safety. And in the midst of chaos, I hear the piano, a sound both fragile and defiant. Someone, somewhere, plays in the darkness as bombs thunder above. The notes carry through the cracks of a splintered door, a trembling hymn against annihilation. The city is not passive. London fights, not with guns alone, but with resilience. Fire brigades form human chains, buckets passing hand to hand. Men and women dig through ruins with bare fingers, searching for cries buried beneath stone. The very rhythm of survival takes on a mythic quality. Heroism in ordinary gestures, bravery stitched into the fabric of routine. A girl offers her biscuit ration to a crying boy she has never met. A nurse binds a wound with her own torn sleeve. A priest opens the doors of his shattered church not for prayer but for shelter, its altar now a bed for the weary. And yet, fear, it never leaves. It clings to every heartbeat. The whistle of a falling bomb is unlike any other sound, a dreadful shriek that promises death and waits only seconds before it delivers. You cannot know whether it seeks your street, your home, your family, until it strikes. In those seconds, eternity is lived. Some pray, some freeze, some run. I can feel the electricity of terror run through the veins of the city itself. Tonight, I stand in Stepney, close to the heart of the docklands. The flames rise higher than church steeples, the smoke thick enough to blot out the moon. I taste soot on my tongue, sharp and bitter. The air itself seems to sear the lungs, carrying the sting of chemicals and charred wood. I hear cries, some muffled beneath debris, others piercing as relatives search desperately among the ruins. The glow of fire reflects in their eyes, and in that glow is the question none dare voice aloud. How long can we endure this? The Blitz is not a single night, not a single terror, but a relentless storm. Londoners learn to live with it, as one lives with chronic pain. Ration lines in the morning, funerals in the afternoon, bombs at night. Children clutch their gas masks shaped like Mickey Mouse faces, an eerie parody of innocence. Housewives cook in shattered kitchens, brushing glass aside to peel potatoes. Men leave for work, even as smoke still curls from the horizon. The resilience is not triumph. It is necessity. It is survival. And yet, beneath survival lies a truth harder to speak. Every man, woman, and child who endures another night does so with the knowledge that tomorrow may not grant the same mercy. That understanding is the shadow that walks beside every Londoner in 1940. As dawn approaches, the fires still rage. The Thames glows as if molten metal had been poured into its waters. St. Paul's Cathedral rises above the smoke, its dome blackened yet unbroken, a ghostly sentinel watching the burning city. The all-clear siren will sound, and people will crawl from shelters, blinking at the devastation, as if waking from a nightmare. They will sweep glass from their doorsteps. They will carry buckets of water to douse smoldering ruins. They will bury their dead. And when night falls again, they will return underground, bracing for the next descent of fire. This is only the beginning. The Blitz has arrived, and it will not leave soon. Tomorrow night will come, and with it, something darker still. The all-clear siren has sounded, but the city above still smolders. Dawn reveals jagged skeletons of warehouses, rows of shattered windows staring like hollow eyes. Yet even as rubble is swept into heaps, even as fire hoses hiss against the last embers, I know that by nightfall the cycle will begin again. And so, Londoners adapt, not only in their homes and streets, but deep beneath the earth. I take you into the underground. At first, the government resisted. The tube was meant for movement, not for sleeping bodies, but necessity overrides authority. Soon, thousands claim the tunnels as their refuge. The descent is a ritual now, performed nightly as regular as prayer. Families gather blankets and pillows, carrying kettles and pots, even small gramophones. They descend narrow stairwells into tiled corridors, their footsteps echoing with a strange mixture of dread and determination. The air changes as you move down. It is warmer, heavy with moisture and coal dust. The smell of humanity presses close. Wool coats damp from rain, bread loaves cradled in brown paper, infants wrapped in flannel. The platform itself is a patchwork of life, families laid out on straw mats, couples leaning against stone walls, children chasing each other between pillars until a warden's voice scolds them into stillness. By candlelight and torchlight, the tunnels become a city beneath the city. I see posters still clinging to the tiled walls, advertisements for West End shows long since canceled, for cigarettes, for holidays to places no one can imagine now. Their bright colors peel in the damp, ghosts of a world suspended above ground. There is an intimacy here, unlike anywhere else. Hundreds of strangers pressed together, their breathing almost synchronized. At first, there is awkwardness, murmured apologies, embarrassed laughter, shuffling bodies. But gradually, necessity weaves them into community. I watch as women share tea brewed in blackened kettles, as old men produce chessboards and play by candle glow, as children fall asleep with their heads resting on strangers' knees. The tube is not comfort. It is endurance, shaped into something resembling routine. And then the nights come alive with sound. The dull hum of planes above, muffled but unmistakable. The whistle of bombs. The deep concussion of impact. Even down here, the earth trembles. Dust falls from the ceiling, tiles crack, lights flicker. People fall silent in those moments, listening, waiting, wondering if this tunnel, this refuge will hold. I feel the psychology of it, the strange duality, safety beneath the ground, terror above it. The mind splits itself, existing in two worlds at once. Children learn to treat the Blitz like weather, storms that pass, leaving puddles in their wake. Parents whisper lies of reassurance, convincing themselves as much as their sons and daughters. And yet, always, the question lingers. What if the tunnel collapses? What if the air becomes dust and stone? There are stories whispered in the dark, of stations that took direct hits, of trains halted by twisted metal, of families buried where they lay, their refuge turned to tomb. Fear spreads like smoke, invisible yet suffocating. But still, every evening, the same descent continues, because fear itself cannot stop the necessity of survival. The ingenuity of Londoners turns even the underground into something almost livable. Committees form. Wardens keep order. Volunteers run canteens, serving bowls of stew and cups of tea brewed from ration tins. Makeshift libraries appear. Boxes of books wheeled down the steps so that children may read beneath the roar of war. Music drifts through the tunnels, fiddles and accordions filling the air with defiance. I hear voices singing together, hymns and popular songs alike, their harmonies trembling against the tiled walls. There is laughter too, sudden, sharp, and surprising. A joke told in the face of fear carries a strange power, piercing through the gloom. I watch as a man balances a tin cup on his nose, children clapping with delight as bombs thunder above. The absurdity is survival. Humor is rebellion. Life insists on itself, even in the darkest caverns. And yet, as the hours stretch toward dawn, weariness falls like a blanket. People lie down shoulder to shoulder, their bodies a patchwork of humanity across the stone floor. The flicker of candles fades, replaced by the soft glow of lanterns. I hear the rustle of blankets, the sigh of sleep, the coughs that echo along the tiled ceilings. The night carries on, restless, until the sirens fall silent and the city above emerges once more into fire and smoke. When I rise back to the streets with them, morning feels like another kind of battlefield. The sky is gray with ash. Entire blocks lie flattened, their homes reduced to rubble heaps, threaded with chimneys still standing like broken teeth. I see a woman picking through bricks with gloved hands, searching for teacups intact enough to salvage. I see a boy wheeling a pram, filled not with a baby, but with coal scavenged from the ruins. I see the weary march of people heading to factories, to offices, to schools, because life cannot pause, not even for destruction. Every day is a continuation. Every night is a descent. The Blitz is rhythm now, a drumbeat of terror and resilience. And in this rhythm grows something else, an identity. London is no longer just a city. It is a living myth, forged in fire and darkness. Its people are not merely citizens, but participants in a collective story, each night shaping the legend of endurance. There is pride in this, whispered but powerful. We are still here. We are unbroken. Yet survival is not triumph. Each night exacts its toll, lives lost, homes destroyed, spirits frayed. The smiles in the tube, the laughter by lantern light, are not the whole story. Behind them lies exhaustion, grief unspoken, anger unvoiced. I feel it in the heavy silences, in the eyes that refuse to meet mine, in the children's drawings taped to tunnel walls, houses with smoke rising, families holding hands beneath a broken sky. The city above waits for nightfall again. The descent will repeat. The bombs will fall. And as the walls shake, as the dust falls, as the fires rage, one question grows sharper, more insistent. How long can any people endure this storm before something inside them breaks? That question waits for us in the nights to come. Night falls again, and with it, the ritual begins. Families clutch blankets and descend into the earth. But above ground, the city braces for yet another storm. I stand on the streets of the East End as dusk bleeds into darkness, and I feel the anticipation, the city waiting like a target painted in shadow. Then the engines. They arrive first as a hum, then a drone, then a thunderous roar that seems to shake the marrow of the night itself. German bombers sweep across the sky in endless waves. Hundreds of them, silhouetted against the moonlight, their wings glinting faintly in the dark. Searchlights lance upward, pale beams slicing through smoke and cloud, grasping for the shadows above. The beams lock, and suddenly the sky becomes a theater of light. White cones converging, holding a bomber in their grip like a beast caught in a snare. The guns open fire. Anti-aircraft batteries pound from Hyde Park, from rooftops, from the banks of the Thames. The blasts reverberate in my chest, sharp and deafening, sparks of red tracer fire streaking upward, curving toward the enemy. I smell cordite and sulfur, acrid and stinging in the throat. Yet even as the guns rage, I feel the futility. The bombers keep coming, wave after wave, their bellies heavy with death. Then the bombs fall. The sound is unforgettable, a shriek, a tearing of the sky, followed by the concussive roar of impact. Streets buckle, glass shatters, walls collapse, whole buildings vanish in clouds of dust and flame. The docks ignite again, rivers of fire spreading from warehouses into the black water of the Thames. Oil burns, casting a shimmering orange reflection across the river. The city itself seems aflame, a living pyre visible for miles. I watch fire brigades battle the inferno, their hoses arching pale streams into the night, dwarfed by the towering flames. Sparks rain down like stars dragged to earth. Men climb ladders into the heart of the fire, their faces blackened, their helmets glowing in the heat. Some never return. The fire is alive, unpredictable, devouring everything it touches. And in this chaos comes the revelation. London is more than buildings. It is people. And the people fight not only to live, but to remain human. I see it in the smallest acts. A nurse leading a wounded stranger by the hand through smoke, her own face streaked with blood she ignores. A group of wardens digging into rubble, bare hands tearing at bricks until they find a voice beneath the ruin. They lift a child, coughing and crying, and the crowd cheers. A sound of raw triumph in the midst of despair. That cheer is not just for survival. It is a declaration. We are not beaten yet. The psychology of endurance deepens here. Each night strips away illusions. Each day reveals new scars. And yet, with each descent into fire, the will hardens. Fear remains, yes, but it transforms. It becomes fuel. Londoners walk streets filled with glass and ash, and they keep walking. They board trains to work past craters that were once houses. They line up for rations beside ruins still smoking. They sing as they sweep rubble from their doorsteps. Life continues, defiantly. There is myth in this. I feel it as I walk among them, the shaping of a legend not yet realized. The Blitz is no longer only an attack. It is becoming a story told in real time, etched into memory with each explosion. The people of London are cast as both victims and heroes, carrying a burden no one asked for, yet refusing to lay it down. And yet, for all the resilience, the toll grows. The East End, already poor and crowded, suffers worst. Families who had little now have nothing. Rows of terraced houses vanish overnight. Schools collapse. Hospitals burn. Entire neighborhoods become wastelands of rubble. I see mothers clutching children with blank eyes, their voices hoarse from smoke, their futures uncertain. I see old men weeping over the ruins of streets they walked for half a century. The Blitz does not strike evenly. It targets the lifelines, the docks, the working-class heart of the city. The burden falls hardest on those least able to bear it. The stories are endless. A family crushed beneath their own home, found days later still clutching one another. A bus caught in the open, its roof torn away, its passengers silenced in a single strike. A church, centuries old, reduced to rubble in minutes, its bells silenced forever. Each story carries the weight of grief, and yet each story is also woven into a tapestry of endurance. In the midst of this destruction stands a symbol, the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral. Time and again, firestorms rage around it, buildings crumble in every direction, yet the cathedral remains, its dome rising defiantly above the smoke. Photographs will capture it, black sky and fire framing the silhouette of that dome, a vision of survival amid devastation. I look up at it now, and I feel the myth solidifying. If St. Paul's stands, so does London. But beneath this myth lies exhaustion. I see it in the faces of firemen slumped against curbs, their hands blistered and raw. I see it in mothers trying to hush children who no longer sleep even in the tube. I see it in men who work 12-hour shifts and then dig through rubble by lantern light for neighbors. The strength is real, but so is the weariness, the grief, the silent question. When will it end? Tonight, the bombers return again. The sirens rise, the city trembles, and I feel the dread like a weight pressing against the ribs. Each night is a test, each night a revelation of how much a human spirit can endure. But the storm is not yet spent. The raids will grow heavier, the destruction more relentless. And as I walk through streets burning like torches, as I watch families clutching one another in tunnels below, one truth sharpens into focus. The Blitz is not only a battle of bombs and fire, it is a battle for the soul of a city. And that battle has only just begun. By now, the nights have become a rhythm, a drumbeat of terror repeated until it almost feels like part of life itself. Yet in this repetition lies something darker, an exhaustion that seeps into every corner of London. The Blitz is no longer a shock. It is a condition. The city breathes in smoke and exhales defiance, but beneath it all, I feel the weight of weariness pressing down. I take you through streets that no longer resemble streets. Entire blocks have vanished, replaced by jagged piles of brick and twisted beams. The smell is unmistakable: charred timber, wet plaster, and sometimes the sickly sweetness of things not meant to burn. Men shovel rubble into carts. Women pick through ruins for fragments of crockery. Children collect shrapnel as if they were trophies of war. There is resilience here, yes, but also a numbness, a silence in the eyes of survivors that words cannot touch. The government calls it staying calm and carrying on. Posters plastered across walls command courage, but courage is complicated. I hear mutterings in bread lines, see tempers flare over ration tins, feel the simmering anger of people who believe the wealthy West is spared while the East End burns. Rumors grow like weeds, that fires are left to rage, that shelters are unsafe, that survival depends not on strength, but on luck. Fear, I realize, does not always unite. It sometimes divides. And yet, amidst the bitterness, there is also solidarity. Fire brigades from distant boroughs rush to the East End, digging side by side with locals. Volunteers from the countryside pour into the city, bringing food, blankets, words of comfort. There is anger, yes, but also an unspoken recognition. We are bound together by fire. It is in this paradox, anger and unity, grief and defiance, that London finds its strange, mythic strength. But the raids intensify. I stand one night near the Thames, where the water reflects not the moon but flames. Incendiaries fall by the thousands, small devices of terror designed not to explode, but to ignite. They rattle across rooftops like hail, setting fire to warehouses, houses, churches. Fire watchers scramble to smother them with sandbags or shove them into buckets of water. A single missed incendiary can reduce a building to ash. I watch as a man stomps on one with his boot, sparks flying around him, before collapsing with burns across his leg. His comrades drag him to safety, the fire already spreading behind. Then come the parachute mines, massive bombs drifting silently on parachutes, their descent almost beautiful until the impact. The explosion flattens entire rows of houses, lifting roofs from walls, sending shock waves that shatter windows streets away. I feel the ground buckle beneath my feet, hear the deafening silence that follows such destruction, and then the cries, always the cries. The tube stations grow fuller with each raid. Entire communities now live underground, their days shaped by the sunless rhythm of sirens. Babies are born in tunnels, their first cries mingling with the thunder of war. Couples marry in the shadows, vowing to one another beneath flickering lamps. Death comes here too, an elderly man slipping into stillness as his family keeps vigil beside him. Life and death entwine beneath the earth, proof that humanity insists on itself, even in darkness. But I cannot ignore the toll above. Schools bombed with children inside, hospitals struck despite red crosses painted on their roofs, fires so fierce that the night itself seems consumed. The Blitz is no longer simply a military campaign. It is psychological warfare. Its purpose is to break the city, to grind down spirit until only surrender remains. And yet, London does not surrender. I walk through bombed-out neighborhoods where the smell of dust and smoke still hangs heavy, and I hear laughter. Children skip over craters as though they were games. Women hang washing lines across rubble heaps, the white sheets fluttering against blackened ruins. A man plays a fiddle outside what was once his shop, his music drifting through broken windows into the ruined street. These are not grand acts of defiance, but they are powerful all the same. They are statements carved against annihilation. We are still here. We endure. The myth grows stronger now. Newspapers print photographs of smiling children in shelters, of firemen drenched in sweat, of Saint Paul's rising above the flames. These images are not lies. They are truths chosen carefully, meant to inspire. And they do. The world looks on, and London becomes not merely a city under attack, but a symbol of resistance itself. Yet for those who live it, the myth is more complicated. I see the grief behind the smiles, the exhaustion behind the jokes. The resilience is real, but it is not without cost. Every act of defiance carries the shadow of loss. Every laugh echoes against silence left by the dead. One evening, after a particularly brutal raid, I find myself standing near the ruins of a church. Its roof is gone, its pews splintered, its altar buried in debris. And yet the congregation gathers. They stand in the open air, their voices rising in hymn as dawn breaks over a city still smoking. The sound is cracked, uncertain, yet powerful beyond measure. It is faith, not only in God, but in survival itself. This is the revelation of the Blitz. Survival is not simply avoiding death. It is insisting on life, again and again, no matter how many times the night tries to take it away. But as the raids grow heavier, as the destruction mounts, a new question takes shape, a question whispered in the tunnels, muttered in the bread lines, carried in the weary silence of survivors. How long can defiance alone protect us when the fire never stops? The answer lies in what is still to come. The Blitz is not yet finished. The storm will reach its fiercest, and the city will face its most dangerous test. And that test begins in the darkest winter London has ever known. The winter of 1940 bleeds into 1941, and with it, the Blitz reaches its most ferocious fury. I feel the cold first, the bite of frost against the skin, the breath that rises in pale clouds, the crunch of ice beneath boots. But then comes the fire, and the cold is forgotten. For winter is the season of the great firestorms. It begins on the night of December 29th, a date etched into the bones of the city. I stand in the heart of London, where the streets around St. Paul's Cathedral are lined with warehouses, libraries, guild halls. Tonight, this entire district will burn. The bombs fall in torrents, incendiaries by the tens of thousands, their metal casings hissing as they crash through roofs, embedding themselves in attics and lofts. The city becomes a constellation of fire. Flames leap from building to building, a chain reaction of destruction. The air is filled with sparks, glowing embers drifting like swarms of fireflies, beautiful and terrible. The smell of burning paper thickens the air, an entire library reduced to smoke, its knowledge scattering into the night sky. The roar is deafening. Fire consumes oxygen, pulling wind into its heart, creating a storm of its own. Streets become rivers of flame. Fire engines race from blaze to blaze, their ladders silhouetted against infernos. I watch men climb into heat so fierce that their helmets glow red. Water from hoses turns instantly to steam, hissing as though the city itself screams in pain. I take you inside the Guildhall Library as flames devour centuries of manuscripts. The walls glow with heat, ink blisters from parchment, and then the roof collapses in a shower of sparks. The sound is like a cathedral organ shattering in mid-song. Outside, volunteers form chains, passing buckets of sand, their faces illuminated by the orange glare. Their arms ache, their lungs choke, but they do not stop. And then I see St. Paul's. Its great dome looms above the inferno, a pale silhouette against the flames. For a moment, It seems doomed. Incendiaries strike its roof, fires crawl toward its timbers, but fire watchers scramble across the cathedral's heights, stamping out flames, hurling bombs from the ledges. The dome endures. And in the morning, when photographers capture the site of St. Paul's rising above smoke and ruin, the image becomes myth itself. London has a heart still beating, but the destruction is unimaginable. 80 churches burn, countless businesses collapse, whole streets vanish in ash. I smell roasted grain from silos set alight, acrid chemicals from destroyed warehouses, the metallic sting of charred iron. The fire burns so hot that it melts lead from cathedral roofs, rivers of molten silver dripping down gutters into the gutters of the city. And yet, amid this inferno, humanity insists on survival. Families huddle in cellars, their faces lit by the glow through cracks in the rubble. Fire brigades refuse to abandon their posts, even as their stations collapse around them. I see a warden guiding people through smoke so dense it blinds, his torch beam the only thread of light through the choking dark. But the toll is immense. By morning, the city of London, the historic heart, is a ruin. 8 square miles of devastation. Streets that had stood since medieval times now lie flattened. The old world has vanished in a single night. Survivors stumble through rubble in silence, their faces ash gray, their clothes singed. Some carry fragments of their past, a broken candlestick, a photograph blackened at the edges, a Bible half burned but still legible. This is the climax of terror. The Blitz has not merely scarred London, it has reshaped it. And yet, the human spirit is revealed most starkly here. I hear it in voices refusing despair. "We'll build again," a woman mutters as she clutches her child. "We're still alive." Men sweep rubble from shop fronts, chalking messages on boards nailed to ruins. Open as usual. Bakers hand out bread baked in shattered ovens. Milkmen deliver through streets still smoking, their carts rattling past bomb craters. The ordinary becomes heroic, and the heroic becomes ordinary. But I also feel the cracks. The grief is mounting beyond measure. Hospitals overflow with the injured, morgues overflow with the dead. Families are shattered, entire neighborhoods erased. There are whispers now, anger at leaders, despair in quiet corners, doubt that endurance alone can outlast the storm. Faith is tested, not only in God but in government, in community, in survival itself. The myth of the Blitz, that smiling children in shelters, that tea sipped amid ruins, remains powerful. But beneath it, the truth is more complex. There are tears, there is rage, there is exhaustion that no slogan can cure. Yet it is precisely within this complexity that humanity reveals itself most fully. The Blitz does not create saints. It reveals ordinary people carrying unbearable weight. The winter deepens. Snow falls on the ruins, turning black rubble into white mounds, softening jagged edges. But beneath the snow lies fire still smoldering, heat still rising from cellars where flames burned unchecked. The contrast is almost surreal, beauty draped over horror, silence masking grief, and still, the bombers come. Each night is another trial, each morning another reckoning. The climax is not a single night, but a season of relentless destruction. I feel the weight of it pressing down, night after night, until endurance itself becomes a form of rebellion. Yet even in this darkest season, one truth holds fast. London does not fall. But the question sharpens, cutting deeper with each passing raid. What will be left of the city and its people when the storm finally ends? That question carries us forward, for the worst has been endured. but the cost of survival has only just begun to reveal itself. The inferno has passed, but its scars remain carved into the heart of London. As 1941 unfolds, the raids continue, though never again with quite the same relentless fury as those terrible nights of winter. The Blitz has not ended, but it has changed. I walk through streets that no longer look like streets, only pathways carved through ruins. The air carries the constant scent of smoke, even days after the fires have cooled. Piles of rubble form mountains between which people pick their way like climbers. Windows gape hollow, doors open onto nothing. Yet among the wreckage, life resumes with a stubborn rhythm. Shops operate out of cellars, their entrances framed by collapsed walls. Hand-painted signs declare, "Open for business," letters crooked and defiant. Pubs serve pints amid broken beams, their laughter echoing against shattered glass. Markets reappear, stalls wedged between craters, traders offering whatever can be salvaged or spared. The resilience is astonishing, and yet I feel the grief just beneath the surface. The numbers are staggering. Tens of thousands dead, hundreds of thousands wounded, more than 1 million homes destroyed or damaged. Behind every figure lies a face, a family, a story. I see them everywhere. In the photographs pinned to rubble walls, in the names scrawled onto boards outside shelters, in the silent spaces where whole neighborhoods once stood. The myth of London's unbroken spirit is true, but it is also incomplete. Survival has come at a terrible cost. I walk into a tube station in daylight now, when it is quiet. The tunnels are empty, the platforms strewn with remnants, blankets folded against walls, chalk drawings of houses and suns still clinging to tiles, a child's shoe left behind. The silence here is profound, a reminder of nights filled with fear, laughter, song, and sorrow. The underground has become a memory, not just a refuge. Above ground, reconstruction begins. Volunteers and laborers clear rubble, brick by brick, wheelbarrow by wheelbarrow. Timber is salvaged, stones stacked for reuse. Architects sketch new lines where old buildings once stood. The city is not waiting for peace to return. It is building already, in defiance of war. This determination is as much a weapon as any gun, a declaration that destruction will not define the future. And yet, I feel something deeper: fatigue. It hangs over the people like smoke. Smiles are harder to find. Tempers fray more quickly. In ration lines, mutters of resentment surface. Why must some suffer more than others? Why are children still being bombed? Why has relief not come sooner? Endurance has limits, and the Blitz has pressed those limits near to breaking. But it has also revealed truths no enemy could have foreseen. The city is no longer divided in the same way it once was. Rich and poor, east and west, stranger and neighbor, all have shared the same shelters, the same fears, the same nights of fire. I see bonds forged in darkness, a dock worker clasping hands with a banker as they dig side by side, a young woman sharing bread with an old man she never met before the sirens, children playing together in craters that once marked separate worlds. The Blitz has remade society in subtle, lasting ways, and yet not all wounds heal so cleanly. Families fractured by loss cannot be mended with slogans. Children evacuated to the countryside return to find homes gone, parents buried, lives uprooted. Grief lingers in corners, the empty chair at supper, the photograph kept in a tin box, the silence when a name is spoken. These absences haunt the city as much as the ruins themselves. I stand in Coventry one day, another city scarred by bombs. Its cathedral lies open to the sky, walls jagged, altar shattered. Yet amid the ruin, A cross made of charred beams rises, bound together, placed upon the rubble. A new cathedral will be built, but the ruin will remain too, preserved as memory. London will face the same choice: what to rebuild, what to remember. For survival is not only endurance, it is also memory. And then comes the revelation. The Blitz has failed. It has killed. It has destroyed. It has scarred. But it has not broken London. The people walk still. The factories hum still. The government stands still. Hitler sought to shatter the city's spirit, but instead he has forged it into steel. Out of ash and rubble rises not surrender, but resolve. The world has seen it too. Photographs of smiling children in shelters, of firemen drenched in sweat, of saint. Palls rising above the smoke have traveled far. London has become symbol as much as city, an emblem of resistance not only for Britain, but for the free world. The myth is born here, amid rubble and grief, a myth both true and incomplete. And yet, I do not let the myth erase the truth. I feel the exhaustion still. I see the tears not captured in photographs. I know the cracks beneath the slogans. For resilience is not the absence of fear or grief. It is living through them, night after night, and carrying on. Anyway, that is the deeper truth of survival. As spring comes, the raids lessen. The Luftwaffe shifts its focus to new fronts, new cities, new campaigns. The Blitz is not over, but its storm is no longer as relentless. For the first time in months, Londoners begin to hope, not for peace, not yet, but for the possibility of life without nightly fire. The silence is strange. The absence of engines overhead is almost unnerving, as though the city cannot believe the sky could ever again be quiet. But even in quiet, the scars remain. London has survived, yes, but what it has survived will never be forgotten. And in that memory lies both strength and burden, for survival is never free. The bombs no longer fall with the same relentless rhythm, but the echoes remain. Even in silence, I hear them. The distant drone of engines that no longer circle, the whistle of bombs that no longer fall, the roar of fire that no longer consumes. The Blitz may be easing, but its shadow lingers in the hearts of all who survived it. I take you into the psychology of survival. Fear, once constant, has carved grooves into the mind. Some cannot sleep without the sound of sirens. Silence itself feels dangerous, uncanny. Children still wake in the night, clutching gas masks, their dreams filled with collapsing ceilings and firelight. Mothers flinch at thunder, mistaking it for bombs. Even laughter carries a tremor, as if joy itself is a fragile thing that might be snatched away. The war above has ended for now, but the war inside continues, and yet resilience is equally deep. The people of London have discovered something unshakable within themselves. They know now that they can endure almost anything. That knowledge, paid for in blood, fire, and rubble, becomes a kind of armor. It steels the will, but it also changes the spirit. I see it in faces lined with exhaustion, yet lit with quiet pride. I hear it in voices that say, "We carried on. We did not break." The Blitz has created a shared identity, a bond across class and street and borough. Those who crouched side by side in tube stations now look upon one another as kin. Strangers became neighbors. Neighbors became family. Even amid grief, there is a sense of belonging, of having survived together. This is the birth of what will be called the Blitz spirit, part truth, part myth, yet powerful all the same. But myths are never simple. The Blitz spirit is often painted as cheerful defiance, children smiling in shelters, women brewing tea amid rubble, men whistling as they clear debris. These images are real, but they are not the whole truth. Behind every smile lies grief. Behind every joke, exhaustion. For many, survival was not defiance but necessity, a daily, grinding endurance that left scars no photograph could capture. And yet, the myth serves a purpose. It gives meaning to suffering. It transforms random destruction into a story of heroism. It assures survivors that their pain was not in vain, that their endurance mattered not only to themselves, but to the world. The Blitz spirit becomes both shield and story, protecting memory even as it reshapes it. I see its cultural imprint everywhere. In the songs sung in shelters, "We'll meet again, there'll always be an England," that echo long after the bombs have ceased. In the slogans painted on walls, "Carry on, we are still here." In the humor sharpened by fire, jokes that mocked the enemy, that laughed in the face of rubble. Humor became weapon as much as comfort, a way to strip fear of its power. The Blitz also reshaped art, literature, and faith. Poets wrote of firestorms as visions of apocalypse. Painters captured streets glowing like Dante's Inferno. Churches, even those in ruins, filled with worshippers who sang louder than the bombs. Faith itself was tested, bent, reshaped. Some clung to God with renewed fervor, others turned away, unable to reconcile divine silence with human suffering. The Blitz became a crucible not only of cities, but of souls. Psychologically, it left paradoxes. Many survivors speak of those nights as both the worst and the most meaningful of their lives. They remember terror, but also closeness, destruction, but also unity, horror, but also a sense of being part of something larger than themselves. The Blitz bound them into a community of memory, one that would last for generations. But memory is a double-edged sword. For those who lost everything, the legacy is grief. For children who grew up in tunnels, the legacy is fear of silence. For those who dug through rubble night after night, the legacy is exhaustion that no peace can fully heal. The Blitz spirit is real, but it is not free. It is purchased with scars that linger long after the fires die out. And yet, perhaps the greatest revelation is this: the Blitz showed that survival is not only possible, it is transformative. London emerged not the same city it had been, but a new one. A city forged in fire, hardened by endurance, bound by shared suffering. Its people discovered within themselves a strength they had never imagined. That strength would carry them not only through the Blitz, but through the long years of war still to come. The cultural memory would endure long after the rubble was cleared. Future generations would look back at photographs of smiling children, of firemen silhouetted against flames, of St. Paul's dome rising above smoke, and they would say, "This was London. This was resilience. This was the spirit of survival." But beneath those images lies the quieter truth, one I carry with me as I walk these streets of ash and shadow. The Blitz spirit was not simply cheerfulness or defiance or pride. It was the raw, stubborn refusal to let life be extinguished. It was mothers rocking babies in tunnels while ceilings shook. It was men dragging strangers from rubble with blistered hands. It was children learning to smile in craters where their homes once stood. That is the spirit forged in fire. And as London rebuilds, brick by brick, soul by soul, the question shifts from survival to legacy. Not only, how did we endure, but what will we carry forward from the fire? The answer to that question will shape not only the city, but the world it stands for. The fires have dimmed, the bombers have gone, and London breathes again. Yet the silence does not feel like peace. It feels like aftermath. The Blitz has ended, but its shadow stretches long across the city. I walk through rebuilt streets, where cranes rise above scaffolding, where bricks are stacked neatly beside foundations. New walls climb skyward where old ones crumbled. The sound of hammers and saws replaces the roar of sirens. It is a different music, but I feel the rhythm is the same. The city beating against destruction, forcing life from ruin. Yet memory lingers everywhere. Every street corner holds a ghost, in the empty space where a church once stood, in the new house built on the footprint of an old, in the faces of those who survived, eyes carrying stories unspoken. Even as the city rebuilds, the past whispers through its stones. Children who once slept in tunnels now play in playgrounds, yet their drawings still show fire and falling planes. Mothers who once hushed cries during raids now rock babies in peace, but they still wake at night when thunder rolls. Men who fought flames with bare hands now sweep new shop fronts, but they still carry scars on their skin and in their silence. The Blitz lives on inside them, shaping their lives long after the bombs stopped falling. The myth of the Blitz spirit grows stronger in peacetime than it ever was during war. Politicians invoke it, writers celebrate it, films recreate it. The story becomes one of unity, cheerfulness, defiance, and it is true, partly. But I remember the other truths too. The tears, the exhaustion, the grief carried quietly in corners. The Blitz spirit was not joy in the face of ruin. It was survival despite ruin. It was not smiling for the camera, but clenching fists in the dark. Yet myths matter. They give meaning. They bind memory. They shape identity. The Blitz becomes not only a chapter of war, but a symbol of endurance for generations. A reminder that even in the darkest nights, cities can hold fast. I feel it most strongly at St. Paul's. The dome still rises, white against the sky, its scars invisible from a distance. People walk past it daily, unaware of the night when it stood alone above fire, when it seemed the last sentinel of a burning city. To me, it remains a beacon, not of faith alone, but of survival itself. If St. Paul's could endure, so could London, so could its people. But the legacy is not only pride, it is also warning. The Blitz revealed how fragile life is, how quickly fire can turn streets to ash, how easily war can consume the ordinary rhythms of existence. It is a reminder of the cost of survival, of the scars carried silently by those who endured. The Blitz spirit is triumph, yes, but it is also loss and grief and the knowledge that no one emerges untouched. I take you one final time into the night. Imagine the siren's wail rising again, the engines growling above, the bombs shrieking down. Imagine the fear, the fire, the rubble. Now imagine the silence afterward, the moment when survivors crawl from shelters, blink at the smoking ruins and say, "We are still here." That moment is the essence of the Blitz. Not the bombs, not the fire, not even the myth, but the breath drawn in silence afterward, the breath of survival. Today the city stands rebuilt, alive, thrumming with life. The scars are hidden beneath new walls, new streets, new faces, yet the echoes remain, in the memorials carved into stone, in the stories told by grandparents, in the silence that falls on remembrance days when sirens wail once more, not as warning, but as memory. The Blitz is not just history, it is inheritance. It belongs not only to those who lived it, but to all who remember it, who carry its lessons forward. It is a story of destruction, but also of endurance, a story of grief, but also of resilience, a story of how ordinary people became extraordinary simply by surviving. And as I leave these streets, as I let the silence settle, I carry one final thought. The Blitz was fire terror, ruin, but it was also the refusal to let the night win. That refusal is London's legacy, and its echo still burns in the ashes of memory.